Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica, and today's video is a collab with my dear friend Charlie. Her channel name is Nut Butter Beauty. Of course, I will link her channel in my description box. Charlie and I have done a few collabs together, and we're going to be doing this one and then a part 2, and I'm super excited. Charlie and I actually bonded over a pretty yucky negative experience that we both have in common here on this platform. And it's just wonderful that out of something yucky, this beautiful friendship blossomed. And I just adore Charlie. She is beautiful, she's talented, she's fun, and she is a great friend. And she has sent me some of the most beautiful makeup products. Just incredible. And other goodies, just blew my mind with her generosity and her kindness. And it's just really fun to collab with Charlie. So we both have single shimmers from Clionadh Cosmetics. My dear friend Andy does stuff. She sent me a gift card to Clionadh Cosmetics for my 50th birthday. And I did go onto the website and lost all control of myself, but then reined myself in, and I picked up 7 gorgeous shades from Clionadh Cosmetics. I did do a no makeup and chill video where I showed you those shadows and swatched them for you. And it took me a while to figure out which shadow I was going to use for this particular look today. And I've decided on this one right here. I should have opened this already. This one right here. This is so beautiful. It's red, orange, and gold. And this is called, if I can read it, Sandblast. And it is, let me tell you the description of the shade. It's a jeweled multichrome. So yeah, I think I'm just going to stick to this one shadow in this look. I mean, I could put a couple, but I just really want to play with this and really see the flips in the shadow just on its own. I'm so excited. And it's got this, well, it's upside down. It's got this cool embossment on it, like the Clionadh logo symbol. So cool. So I'll be using that. And then for the mattes, I'm going to be pulling out the Certified the Tropical Wonders palette, because that's typically what I do when I use single shimmers as I get mattes out of this palette. And what I'm thinking of doing is like a real sunset type vibe. I want to use Toucan, Red Sea, maybe Equator as well. And then I want to use Starling, like, the oranges, reds, purples, and then put that shimmer on. I think that's going to look awesome. And this is such a fun all matte palette. I've used it multiple times on my channel. So I do have my brows done and both eyelids are primed in the Juvia's Place Prep Prime eyeshadow primer. I'm going to do both eyes on camera today, at least my upper lids. I don't know that I'll do my lower lash lines, but maybe. And Charlie and I are going to be talking about what it was like to grow up when we did. I was born in 1974. And I'm not exactly sure how old Charlie is, but I know we grew up we're from the same generation. And she came up with this idea. She thought it would be really fun for us to just sit down and talk to you guys, kind of go down memory lane and talk to you guys about what it was like to grow up in the 70s, into the 80s, into the 90s. So part 1 is going to be like 70s, 80s, and then part 2 will be 90s and beyond. I feel very fortunate to be part of Gen X. I love being a Gen Xer, and I was really fortunate, I believe, to grow up when I did, because it was just, for me anyway, it was an awesome time. It really was. I miss those days. I really do. So as I put my eye look together, I'll be chatting with you guys about my childhood, and then obviously Charlie is going to be doing the same thing on her channel, and I'm really excited to see what Clionadh shadows she'll be using for her look today. Okay, so let's start off with Toucan, putting that in my transition area, and then I'll just kind of build from there, of course. Let me make sure this isn't creasy. This really doesn't crease that much, just a little teeny tiny bit. It's not as creasy as the P. Louise can get. Okay, so like I mentioned, I was born in 1974, and I was a really easy baby, according to my mom. I was 6 pounds, 6 ounces. And I was a pretty little kid. Like, my mom was a little concerned about my growth because I was like teeny tiny, apparently. And she just said, like, I was super happy, super easy. She stayed home with me until I was like, I think 3. And then she went back to work as a school teacher. She'd been teaching before she had me. And honestly, I almost wasn't here. It took her like over 2 years to get pregnant with me. So she was just thrilled when I came along. And I never crawled, I rolled. I would roll from one room to another. And my parents had like some kind of like cheapy little movie camera back in the day. And there are films of me rolling somewhere. I think they're in my dad's attic, I think. I need to find those because I'd like to figure out a way to watch them. I don't know that we have any real way to do that right now. I'd have to maybe get a different camera. I don't know. But I remember watching that when I was little growing up, watching myself roll from room to room, and I'd kind of like look up at my mom, and I had this like curly Q hair stuff going on, and I'd be like, so funny. Yeah, she just said that like she would get me up in the mornings, and you know, we'd have breakfast or whatever, you know, and then she'd put me in my playpen, and I would play for a little while and then take a nice long nap and wake up just super happy, and I went to bed easy at night. And she just said I was a joy to raise as a baby. Just great little kid. So when I turned 3, my mom went back to teaching, and my biological dad was also a teacher. And I went to daycare, and I went to Dee Dee's house. And Dee Dee was the best daycare provider. She was very loving, very kind, but also ruled with an iron fist. Like, and there were a lot of kids there, so she kind of had to. You know, she had kids that were from, you know, baby, like infants, all the way up to like 10, 11 years old. And there were probably like, oh gosh, 10 kids there maybe. I mean, I think for the standards now, she had too many kids for just one person to watch, but we all kind of looked out for each other too, you know. But if anybody misbehaved or, you know, was naughty to another kid, you know, we got in trouble. Like we got timeouts, and I want to say she spanked a couple of the kids too. She never spanked me. My mom and dad did not believe in spanking at all. I only got spanked one time when I was like, I think 4, and I was playing in the driveway, and a car was coming down the street. My dad told me to stay put and not go out in the street, and I ran out in the street, like almost got hit by the car, and he gave me a little pop on the butt for that. But yeah, Dee Dee's was just wonderful. And we would play constantly, and she had this really cool backyard where it was probably teeny tiny, but to me, like my memory of it was this huge expanse of a backyard. And there were like these, I don't know, like sidewalk type, like pathways in the backyard that kind of like crisscrossed over each other. And then there were like these bushes that had these like big green, like waxy leaves. I don't know what kind of bushes they were. But I can remember myself and a couple of the other kids riding around on tricycles and pulling little bunches of those leaves off and pretending they were money. And we'd like play store, and I don't know. And there was a kid that was there who was, I think, 10, 11 years old, who would entertain us quite often. He would sing songs to us, and we'd sit on our tricycles in front of this like deck platform type situation. And he would sing like Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places and like Willie Nelson songs. And we'd cheer for him. And oh, it was great. So fun. And I stayed at Dee Dee's pretty much every day during the week until I was 5. And then I went to kindergarten. And one of my favorite memories of Dee Dee was when I was, I think, 4. My dad's really close friend who he taught at the high school with had a massive heart attack one night at football practice, because my dad also coached football and coached track at the high school. My mom was at the middle school, my dad was at the high school. And his really close friend just had like a massive heart attack one night at football practice in the weight room. And so of course my mom and dad were helping his wife, and you know, he ended up passing away. It was awful. And like their kids babysat me, you know, I mean, we were just really close with each other, and he was my dad's best friend. So they had me go to Dee Dee's that night, and I spent the night with her. And I felt so special that I got to spend the night with Dee Dee. But we had hot dogs and macaroni and cheese that night for dinner, and she put my milk in a wine glass. And that's one of my favorite memories of being at Dee Dee's house. So now I'm going to go into Red Sea and put that in my crease. So when I was 5, I went to kindergarten. And really, really great kindergarten. Loved it. And I had the best kindergarten teacher. Her name was Priscilla. And she had this long, luxurious, thick black hair. And oh, loved her hair. I used to play with her hair all the time. And it was a Christian kindergarten. So we would have chapel on, I think it was Wednesdays mornings, I'm pretty sure. And I had really long hair. Like my hair was down past my butt from the time I was like probably 4 until I was in the 4th grade and got it cut off like up to my shoulders, which I wish I'd never done that, but you know, whatever. And I used to sit in the pew in the little chapel area of the church, and my hair would like kind of go over the seat back. And this little girl would sit behind me during chapel, and she'd take little pieces of my hair and just kind of tug on them a little bit. And I would just sit there like, oh. And that developed this need for me to have my hair played with all the time. If you ask my kids or my husband, they know, like, I love to have my hair played with. And that's what started it all. It's her fault. And I have a lot of great memories of kindergarten, art projects that we did and little field trips that we would go on. But I do have one not great memory of kindergarten. I have always been a picky eater, always, my whole life. And it started from probably birth, I would assume. And, you know, we would have snack time in the kindergarten class that I was in, of course. And one day, the snack was Cheez-Its and pineapple. And I don't like pineapple. It's just not, I just don't like it. It makes me gag. And then when I start gagging, I can throw up. It's, you know, it's embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I didn't like that, but you know, there were just certain things I could not eat. And the teacher's assistant, it wasn't Priscilla, it was this aide that was not nice. I don't know what the hell she was doing at a kindergarten, because she just did not like us kids, and she was really snotty and rude and just not a nice person. So anyway, I am sitting at the little table, and she's telling me, like, you either eat your pineapple or I'm going to paddle you, because kids would get paddled at my kindergarten. Can you imagine? I mean, they might still do that. I hope they don't. So ridiculous. And I was like in tears and telling her, like, I cannot eat this. I will throw up. And she's like, I don't care. You either eat the pineapple or I'm going to paddle you. So I ate the pineapple and then promptly went in the bathroom and threw up. So when my mom came to pick me up that afternoon, after she was done teaching, as we were driving home, I told her what had happened. I said, well, you know, I wasn't really talking much. And my mom's like, what's the matter? And I told her, I said, I think her name was Barb. I'm gonna go back into toucan and just blend this out a little bit. These are so pretty. Love these shades. I said Barb threatened to spank me if I didn't eat my pineapple. She was gonna paddle me. And my mom was like, what? No. Because I think what I remember my mom telling me as I got older was that the parents had the choice to allow their child to be paddled at school or not. And I mean, this was pretty common practice back then. So it's not like, you know, I was at some, well, I mean, it was, that's horrible. But, you know, most of the schools at that point would paddle kids, just horrible. That did go away, obviously, eventually. But yeah, anyway, so my mom was like, well, no one's going to paddle you. So she's like, we're going back to the school. I'm going to deal with this. I remember sitting in the back seat going, yes. So we got back to the school and my mom just goes charging in there. And she demanded to speak to Barb. And she just said, don't you dare ever lay a hand on her. And I'm paying for her to be here. And she will eat or not eat whatever she wants. So knock it off. Don't you ever threaten my child that you're going to paddle her because she won't eat pineapple. And at first, Barb tried to act like I was lying. Oh, I didn't say that to her. Bullshit. Yes, she did. So anyway, Barb was quite nice to me after that. She never threatened to paddle me again, that's for sure. Another thing that happened to me when I was in kindergarten that was not fun is my dad was a, you know, I mentioned high school teacher, and he also coached track and football. And every year at the end of the track season, there would be a banquet. And my dad got home from teaching that day and we were running late to get to the banquet, and he had a typewriter in one hand, like in a case, and then an x-acto knife in his other hand. And I'll pop a picture up of an x-acto knife because I don't know, some of you may not know what that is. But they would use those X-acto knives to erase mistakes that they would make as they were typing. And so as he lays that down on the kitchen counter and starts racing around to get his stuff together to go to the banquet, my 5-year-old self races over to the X-acto knife, and I'm like, ooh, fun. Let's play with that. And my mom's like, Mike, you cannot leave the X-acto knife on the counter or the table. She's going to pick it up and play with it and cut herself. So hide that. So because we were in such a hurry, he just grabs the X-acto knife and puts it in the pocket of his windbreaker jacket, and we head off to the pizza parlor for the banquet. And this is absolutely gorgeous. Although I need to add a little bit more back right here because I kind of took too much of this off, or maybe I just didn't have enough on this eye. I don't know. This eye just seems like it's got a little bit more. So anyway, so we go to the banquet and it's wonderful. And, you know, the kids were always really wonderful to me. And Erica, come sit by me and sit on my lap and I'll leave you. It was great. I love that. This is awesome. So now I want to go into Equator and just deepen that up just a little bit more. And as the banquet came to an end, my dad, you know, we're walking out to the parking lot and my dad picked me up and carried me. And of course, as soon as we get out in the parking lot, I want to get down and run around. So as he lets me down, that X-acto knife had popped through his pocket and was hanging out a little ways. And it just goes zhit, right across the back of my thigh. And I ended up getting 18 stitches. That was so horrible. I was just like a wreck. It hurt so bad. And of course it was bleeding like crazy. So that scared the shit out of me. And my dad just felt horrible, horrible. So I do have a pretty decent scar on the back of my thigh from that. It's not as noticeable as it used to be. It's pretty, I mean, you can still see it, but it's not that crazy, you know? So yeah, the paddle threat and then the X-acto knife injury was not very fun when I was in kindergarten, but I got through it, you know, got through it. Then of course I went off to grade school, and I loved the grade school that I went to, and it's actually going to be closing down soon, I found out. I'm not sure why exactly, but that just breaks my heart because it was a great school. I had the best first grade teacher. Her name was Miss Laney. Loved her. And then when I was in second and third grade, they would commonly have teachers, like two teachers, like one teacher would teach in the morning and then the other one would teach in the afternoon. And I had Mrs. Frost and Mrs. Pruitt when I was in the second grade, and Mr. Olson and Mrs. Schroeder in the third grade. I had Ms. Werner for fourth grade. She was horrible. Not like her. I'll get to her in a minute. But let's go back to first grade. I got to be the most important person at one point during the school year, which was really fun. And basically, my teacher would have you bring in like photos of yourself or your family. And then you could stand up in front of the classroom and talk to your classmates about what makes you who you are, you know, and every kid got to do that. And it was so fun. I love that. I have pictures of that somewhere. And then in second grade, of course, I had Mrs. Frost and Miss Pruitt, and I broke my arm in the second grade. I'm going to go back in with this brush, kind of blend that down just a little bit. We had gone on a field trip to Mrs. Frost's house because she and her husband were beekeepers. And it was like, you know, the beginning of June. And so we go on this field trip, and it was wonderful. We had a wonderful day. And I get home from the field trip. My mom came and picked me up from school and brings me home. And she and my dad were going to go swim in the backyard. We had a swimming pool in my backyard, which was just wonderful. I love that. My dad and the neighbors put that pool in. It was an above ground pool, and it was 4 feet deep and, you know, pretty good sized pool. I mean, the neighbor kids would all come over and we would swim, and it was wonderful. And then my dad built this amazing deck around the pool. It was just awesome. That was really cool to have growing up. I love that. But I get home and my parents are going to go swim in the pool in the backyard. And my neighbor friend, TT, she's like, let's go in the backyard and pretend like we're acrobats on the swing set. And I've already gone into this story in another video, which I'll link in my description box. So I don't want to, you know, really go through the whole thing again. But suffice it to say, we were jumping off a stool to grab the top bar of the swing set, and every time we were successful at grabbing the swing set and swinging and then landing in the grass, we would move the stool back further and then continue to jump. Okay, well, eventually the stool just got too far away from the swing set. I jump off, sail through the air, and then come crashing down on the ground and break my right wrist. And I was in a cast for that for months. It just would not heal. So yeah, that wasn't the funnest part of second grade. Third grade was great. I don't really remember a whole lot of, like anything significant to share about third grade. But fourth grade, when Ms. Werner was my teacher, she was a cantankerous old battle axe is what she was. And we learned how to write in cursive at that point. Fourth grade was when you learned how to write in cursive, which I don't even think they teach cursive writing anymore. And that woman would walk around with a ruler, but it wasn't like a 12-inch ruler. It wasn't a yardstick. I don't know. It was just a larger ruler. And if your hand wasn't in the perfect penmanship position, or you didn't have the proper form of the letter, this is gorgeous. I'm loving it. She'd whack you on the knuckles with the ruler. That was fun. Now I'm going to go into Starling and put that in my outer V. Yes. And I think I'm just going to keep using this brush that I put down the equator shade with because it's a nice shape. Works really good. Okay. She never whacked me on the knuckles, but she whacked several of my friends. I mean, I would have liked to have decked her if she whacked me on the knuckles. She was just a really mean. She could be nice at sometimes, but for the most part, she was just a mean lady, just mean. And then in the 5th grade, I had Miss Boxley, who was the only Black teacher in the school district at that time. And she was someone who, I got to be careful because I'll start crying, but she was someone who revolutionized my life in so many ways, because that's when my parents got divorced. I've already done a video about that too. My dad had an affair, and I'll link that video in my description box as well. And it was just awful. It was awful. And my mom and dad were both very popular teachers in the school district. And so everybody knew that my dad was having an affair. Everybody knew. And it was just really awful. And Miss Boxley would go out of her way to spend time with me. I gotta be careful. I'm gonna start crying. Don't start crying. It's okay. You can talk about this and not cry. But she would spend lunch times with me. She would come in early in the morning to hang out with me because I'd have to get to school pretty early because my mom was a teacher and she'd have to get there to, arrange her lesson plans and stuff. And so I would just go across the street because the middle school that my mom taught at was just right across the street from my grade school. But so Miss Boxley would come. She knew that I was there with my mom early, so she would get there early and she would basically counsel me. I mean, she was like my counselor. She would talk to me about what was going on at home and how I was handling my parents' divorce and give me ideas of how to handle things, and would let me cry and yell and swear, whatever I needed to do, to get through that, it was not a fun time. But, to have someone like that in my life who was so loving and so caring and was very open with me about the struggles that she had been through. She was raised in Alabama in a very racist, just awful situation, and ended up coming to Oregon. I think when she went to college, she went to the University of Oregon to get her teaching degree. And so she was very open with me about her struggles in life and just, how hard it was to grow up where she did. And I don't know, I had this really intimate, unique connection with her. And she really helped me get through a really difficult time of my life. And I just love that woman. And I spent, that is gorgeous, but I've got a really bad edge now. I'm gonna go back in with this shade, or this brush, and go into, well, wait a minute. Well, I was using, it's okay. I'm gonna go back into Equator with this brush. It's all right. It's just, she just knew exactly what I needed. And she devoted a lot of time and energy and attention to me. But I would commonly, for years afterwards, like into middle school, into high school, I think even, yeah, when I was in college, I even would go, she taught at that school for quite some time, and then switched to a different elementary school. And I would go visit her, and we would just sit and talk and laugh and hug, and she was wonderful. I've lost contact with her. We found each other actually on Facebook when I had Facebook, and we talked a few times, and we were going to try to make arrangements to meet up for lunch. And then she ended up moving back to where she was from to take care of her older brother who was not doing well health-wise. And so we just lost contact, and then I ended up getting off of Facebook. But that's one of the things I regret the most about, you know, not like I should have gotten like her address or her phone number or something so that we could have stayed in contact when I got off Facebook, but I don't know. I'm telling you, she was just amazing, amazing. And, you know, at that time of life, even though I was going through a rough go with my parents' divorce and stuff, let me go back in with Toucan, it was just, I felt like it was a lot simpler life than it is now for kids, you know? We would commonly, we meaning myself and the neighbor kids, would spend all kinds of time outside playing, like after school and on the weekends in the summertime. Like literally, this is what would happen, okay? You'd get up in the morning, pretty early, you know, like 6, 7, whatever, and you'd eat breakfast, and then you'd go outside in the garage, get on your bike, and you just take off, and you'd be gone all day. We'd all be gone all day. Our parents didn't even know where we were. I mean, we weren't like super far away from the house, but you know, we'd get going places. We'd go to the ponds that were by the house and collect frogs and have them in the garage until it stunk so bad that our parents were like, go put them back at the ponds now. But we just had so much fun, you know? We weren't glued to phones. We weren't glued to the internet. That wasn't even a thing. You know, we just had oodles of time outside playing with all kinds of stuff, or with our toys. You know, we had toys, dolls. Like I had tons of Barbies and Cabbage Patch dolls. I loved them. Okay, so now for the shimmer shade. Yes, Sandblast. Cannot wait to put this on my lids, and I need to find a specific brush for this. Hang tight. Actually, I think I'm going to use this. I was going to use my Rephr 02, but I think I'm just going to use this because this is a great size. And oh yeah, it's picking up the shimmer just beautifully. Yes. Okay, let's put this on. Oh yeah. Oh yes, it's got that beautiful red and gold and orange shift to it. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's so beautiful. Oh, I think I might spray this just a little bit. Where's my spray? There it is. So, you know, we just would have a blast. We'd have a blast. And I can remember like my parents often like going out to dinner on the weekends or to school functions or parties or whatever. And I would have the best babysitters, and we would like dance to Michael Jackson and Prince, and you know, it was so fun. And you know, they'd let me stay up late, and we'd have popcorn and watch scary movies, and it was just so fun. I loved that. I loved when my parents would go out. I'm like, yes. And then I get to like, okay, which babysitter do you want to come? And I'd be like, well, this or that. Yeah, you know, it was so fun. I love that. And I played sports in when I was young. Like I started into track when I was 6 years old because my dad was a track coach. Obviously, I've said that like 15 times. And he and another guy started the West Side track team. And so like I was long jumping and high jumping when I was, from the time I was 6 until, well, I mean, I was in track all through middle school into high school. I blew my ankle out when I was a sophomore in high school, and then I stopped doing that. And, you know, I did really well, and I loved that. You know, it was so fun because there were kids from 6 years old up to like 18 years old, senior in high school. And so, you know, I just felt super cool to be a part of this track team with all these awesome people, all these older kids and kids my, you know, it was just really fun. And of course, because my parents were teachers, there was always kids at our house, you know, like high school and middle school age kids at my house, you know, either, I don't know, getting tutored or whatever it was, but it was just so wonderful. I love that. I was also in dance. I took like jazz, ballet, tap from the time I was about 4 until, I was off and on in dance classes until I went into college. Like I was on dance team in high school and then also went into dance theater in college. So that was wonderful to have dance be such a wonderful part of my life. Love that. And I just loved the fashion back then. Well, some of it wasn't great, like the shoulder pads and stuff when I was in junior high, like in the late 80s, that was, or middle school, junior high. We didn't call it junior high, we called it middle school. I don't know why I said that. Shoulder pads were pretty horrible. But I had like Esprit and Normandy Rose and Vans and, all kinds of cool stuff. I loved the stuff that the clothes and the shoes and stuff that I had. We had like parachute pants and like these really cool like leg warmers and like these bunchy socks and these cool boots that were awesome and moon boots and just, it was just so cool. I loved it. And, of course I had access to like Teen Beat magazines or like Tiger Beat or whatever it was. And I'd have like posters of Michael Jackson and Prince and all the heartthrobs all over my walls, Oh, so great. And we had like the best snack foods back then too. Just so good. They don't make, they still have good snacks, sure. But back in the 80s, I'm telling you, that was when snacks were at their freaking heyday. So good. Oh, my favorites were the Jell-O pudding pops. And I also loved these peanut butter boppers. Oh, I'd eat those like crazy. And, like I mentioned, we would get up, take off on our bikes and come home, have a few snacks, have a couple Jell-O pudding pops after we ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then we were back outside again and come home, eat dinner, wolf your dinner down. And then, back outside to play hide and seek or whatever we were going to do. And I didn't let my kids do stuff like that because I was scared to death someone was going to grab them, I'm going to go back into Starling now and take that edge of that shimmer off. God, that is gorgeous. Really pretty, shifty, metallic loveliness. Love it. So fun. I'm so happy that Andy got me the gift card so I could get these shimmers. They are just stunning and I cannot wait to continue to play with them. In part 2, we're going to be using Clionadh shadows again, so I'll get to play with more because I have 7 shades in total and I love them. They're gorgeous. And that's a lovely formulation, that kind of sticky, opaque, just loveliness. Oh, so nice. So yeah, it was just, I don't know. I just feel very fortunate to grow up when I did because we just had a blast. And like I mentioned, there was no phones and no internet. So we were, really using our imaginations to play and we were outside, just wonderful. I have so many fond memories. I actually, when I was in the 3rd grade, a white cat, big, fluffy, long-haired white cat followed me home from school. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep this cat. But we had a dog, Mopsy, who was a cockapoo. She was half Cocker Spaniel, half Poodle. And she did not like cats. So that's why we didn't have one. And, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm keeping the cat. And I knew that my aunt, and I'm going to go back with my finger with this shade just a little bit, just kind of make that look a little nicer right there. I knew that my aunt and uncle and my cousin were coming that night to spend the weekend. And I'm like, okay, well, as soon as my cousin gets here, she can help me. So I put the cat in the garage and just kind of left him out there. And then came in the house like, oh, hi, what aunt and uncle and cousin are coming. Okay, great. My room's all clean. Everything's great. Stay out of the garage. So my cousin gets there finally, and I'm like, come on, come out here with me, and you got to help me with this cat. And she's like, what? You have a cat? I'm like, shut up. So we go out in the garage, and she's like, oh, and he was a beautiful cat. And so, but we knew he was hungry, he was acting hungry. So we were like, okay, what are we going to feed him? So I remember going in the house and getting like pieces of bread to feed this cat. And my cousin's like, why don't we try giving it dog food? I'm like, well, a cat can't have dog food. That's going to hurt it. Like, no, so stupid. So anyway, finally my mom got cued into the fact that my cousin and I were going in and out of the garage 9,000 times. So she's like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, nothing. She's like, what's out in the garage? What do you keep taking out? What are you doing? And I'm like, well, we got frogs from the ponds in the garage, which was very common. We're feeding the frogs. And she's like, what? No. what the hell's out in the garage? So she comes out to the garage and she sees the cat. And she's like, Erica, we cannot keep the cat because the dog will kill it. And I'm like, no. And my mom's like, okay, well, let's try. Let's bring the cat in the house. Let's see what Mopsy does. So Mopsy cornered the cat underneath this like chest of drawers thing for a while. And finally, Mopsy settled down and got away from the cat. And my mom went over and got the cat out from under whatever that was and took him out in the living room and sat down with him and started petting him. And he just sprawled out on my mom's lap and fell asleep. And my mom's like, all right, we're keeping the cat. And she named him T-Boy. There's a whole long story behind that, but it's weird and obnoxious. So I'm not going to tell it. But she named him T-Boy. Just suffice it to say, she named him T-Boy. And he was with us until I went to high school. We moved into a different area because my parents got divorced and my dad was an ass and basically made my mom sell the house because he wanted half the profits of the sale of the house. And I didn't want to go to the same high school that my dad was at anyway because of all the affair shit that was going on. I mean, you know, it was awful. I just wanted to get the hell away from that. So we moved into this like little townhouse condo type situation when I went to high school. And the cat, T-Boy, was getting really like mangled by this other neighborhood cat, this mean cat. So we were trying to keep him inside and he was not an inside cat. So he was like peeing all over the place. So my mom's like, we can't have this. So my mom said, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to get rid of the cat. And I was like, oh, no. But my really close friend took him and she lived out on a farm and he was just happy as a clam. And I got to see him a few times. Like I'd go out and see him on her farm and it was great, you know. But it was really hard because he was my baby, you know, he's my baby. And then Mopsy, our dog, who my parents got Mopsy when I was like an infant. She was put to sleep when I was 13. And that was just, oh. And then we got Lacey, my freshman year of high school. And she was a Lhasa Apso. And she was amazing. She looked like a toy. She didn't look real. She was such a cute puppy. So cute. And she made things a lot better, you know. I just loved Lacey. She was such a good girl. But yeah, so, you know, the ending of middle school was tough because I left this area that I had grown up in with all my friends since kindergarten and moved to a completely different part of town, different side of town. And that was really hard, really difficult. It was horrible. And that's when I met Paul, was in middle school when I was in the 6th grade. He was my boyfriend in 6th grade for like 2 weeks. We fell madly in love with each other. And then he broke up with me and broke my heart. But we stayed friends and, you know, so that was a great part of my childhood too, is meeting Paul in 6th grade when I was 11 years old. It was wonderful. So I think that's it for now. I'll save the rest of high school and college for part 2, and I'm done with my eye look, and this is absolutely stunning. So I'm gonna go off camera, do my lower lash lines, of course, clean this up, lower lash lines, rest of my face. I think I'm gonna find a fun eyeliner color today too, and I'll come back. So this, of course, is my finished look, and man, I love how this look turned out. That Clionadh shade shadow was so fun to play with. I am so grateful to Andy for gifting me the Clionadh gift card, and I cannot wait to play with the rest of the shades. And like I mentioned, part 2 will be coming. And so I'll be playing with another shadow from Clionadh, and then I'll continue to play with them, of course. So I'm going to show you the shadows again, but let me show you just a few things I threw on my face for my finished look. On my lips, I used a lip lacquer from Colored Rain in the shade Cherry Blossom. Now, I thought I had lost this. I could not find this. I had way too many lip products in my lip product drawer. And when my daughter was here, she's like, Mom, do you have some lipsticks that you could give me? And I'm like, Sydney, I've got a ton of lipsticks I can give you. So we decluttered my lippy collection and I finally found this. And I just love it. It's such a beautiful shade of red. And I love how glossy it is. It definitely looks like lacquer on my lips. And it feels really nice. It lasts really well throughout the day. So happy I found it again. And then I did go very traditional with my eyeliner shade today. I used the Renaissance Flick felt tip liner in black from Revolution Beauty. I was going to go with a really fun eyeliner shade. And I was looking through my pot gel liners and none of the shades I felt like would really go. And I could have used a completely, you know, opposing color, but I just didn't want anything to detract from the Clionadh shimmer on my eyelids. So I just went with the old standard. I love it. And then I used the Gifted mascara from Tarte again. I also used a highlighter from Nomad. I use this quite often. This is the Kiss of Sun highlighter. I put this in my inner corners and also under my brows. And I love how this looks with this look. It's such a beautiful highlighter shade. I love it. Okay, so now let's start off by talking about the mattes I used from the Certify the Tropical Wonders palette. And I am just thrilled with this all matte palette. I know I've said that so many times. I've used this a lot on my channel and I just love it. The shades are blendable and pigmented. All the shades I used in this look worked so well together. I did pop a little bit of sun ray around the outer edge of the the mattes that I put down. And then on my lower lash lines, I used Equator and Starling towards the outer part of the lower lash line. And then I put Toucan towards the front. And then I just popped a little bit of sun ray. I don't even know if you can tell on my lower lash lines as well, but just love playing with this palette. And I'm telling you, Sandblast, this shade is just stunning. It's got that red and orange and gold flippy stuff. I can see mostly red on my eyelids, but in certain lighting, you can definitely see that like orange and antique gold shift. So beautiful. The formulation is just perfection. It's that thick, opaque, buttery, sticky texture that I just love in a shimmer shade, and just thrilled to finally play with this today because I've been wanting to play with these since I got them. Just, you know, had other stuff to film with, but thrilled that Charlie recommended this or suggested that we do this. And I can't wait to see what shades from Clionadh she uses in her look and listen to her talk about her growing up in the 70s and 80s. Really a fun topic to talk about. And something I didn't even mention is, I don't know why I didn't mention this, is the incredible music that was in the 70s and 80s. That's pretty much primarily all I listen to even now. The shows, the movies, everything, you know? The 70s and 80s kicked ass, okay? I don't care what anybody says, they kicked ass. And Charlie, thank you so much for wanting to do this collab with me. I cannot wait for part 2. Please go to Charlie's channel and subscribe and show her a ton of love and support if you haven't yet already. She is one of my dear friends and she's just amazing. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course, comment down below in the comment section. I love to chat with you guys there. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video. But in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself. Be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Drop it.